Alright, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and I just have a simple question for you. What is a woman? This is a question that's been asked around a bunch of times lately, and it seems like a very simple answer, like anybody with a brain in their head could answer it. But apparently, not even women themselves or congressmen who make up laws to protect trans women, or even professors that study and teach gender can even really answer the question. Now, I want to preface this video by saying that I'm not against the trans community or the gay community at all, so don't take it this way. This is just a simple review on the movie that I just watched called What is a Woman? It's by Matt Walsh, and I think it's a really good documentary. If you have the time to watch it, you definitely should. But keep in mind, this was one of the most expensive episodes that I've ever made. Quite literally, it's cost me about $144 because in order to watch this documentary, you had to actually have a Daily Wire account, which I guess even at their annual price of $9 still came out to $144 altogether. So if you do end up enjoying today's video, I ask that you hit the like button, and without further ado, let's get into it. So because this is a subscription based documentary and I don't want to get copyrighted at all, I'm only going to be using the stuff that's already online from the trailers and things like that, but everything that I have notes on throughout the entire documentary might not get said in this video. I'm just going to be going over the different conversations and points that I took notes on that are shown in these trailers.
What is a woman? Can you tell me that? Well, you're at the Women's March. You must have some idea. Please, if one person could tell me what a woman is.
You are not here for women. We ask you to leave.
What is that?
Okay, so right off the bat, this is one of 3 public interviews that Matt conducted in his documentary. And quite honestly, like the entire time when he was doing these public documentaries, the majority answer was that if you have a truth of your own, even if it's not true at all, then who am I to judge your truth? Which I don't think I need to tell you guys is a dangerously arrogant statement. Because once you have your truth, right, and like what if your truth is something that is able to harm others? You get other people behind your truth who have the same truth or similar truths. Then you guys could rally together with this false idea of what the truth is. And we all know that there's strength in numbers, so you could actually do a lot of harm to a ton of people. I think we see that a lot now in today's society and the way social media operates, where you have a ton of kids coming out as trans or queer or all these different pronouns, and they're suing people because they want to be called these different type of things, when in actuality they're not that, right? There are some people who identify as a wolf, a cat, and teachers aren't allowed to say anything about it because it's identified as a queer ideology. But anyways, I'll get into that later. So, public interview number 3, the general question was asked, what is a woman? This should be an easy question to answer, being asked to women.
I'm a husband. I'm a father of 4. I host a talk show. I give speeches. I write books. I like to make sense of things.
A woman is not anything in particular.
There is not one particular thing.
It could be many things to many people.
Some women have penises, right? Some men have vaginas.
I like scented candles, and I've watched Sex and the City.
Yeah.
How do I know if I'm a woman?
That's a great question.
Marcie Bowers is one of the first professionals that Matt actually speaks to in the documentary, and she is, as she claims, a gynecologist with a trans history. She's also someone who does sex change operations for boys and girls, and I'm assuming adults as well, although I don't think that was ever stated in the film. I think one of the important things to notice in this film is that when Matt goes up to these people, all he's doing is asking questions after questions after questions, and he just kind of lets them talk, and most people fumble around their statements or repeat the same thing, which is really nothing, or they just end the interview altogether. But Marcie Bowers actually gives somewhat of a good answer. It's sort of confusing when you first hear it, but not really when you think about it. When she was asked what is a woman, she responded with, a woman is a combination of physical attributes and what gender clues you're showing off, hopefully that match your gender. Now, if you compare that to the first answers to the question that we got, I mean, obviously that's a better answer. But I think another thing to notice in this documentary that got people to try and answer a question that they don't know the answer to was that usually beforehand, Matt will try to give a similar example that seems equally as outrageous as switching a kid's gender. Like, for example, earlier on in the interview with Marcie Bowers, he asked if she's familiar with the trans-able community. Some of you guys might remember videos about a woman who made herself blind because she believed that she had to in order to feel normal. And essentially, that's what the trans-able community is. It's a bunch of people who think they should be disabled, so they have procedures to amputate arms or become paraplegics, all for the purpose of feeling normal. And her response to this is that those people are quote-unquote kooky, and the question itself was irrelevant to the conversation. Which, I mean, it wasn't if you think about why he was saying that in the first place. And keep in mind, this is the same person who said that there's only a little bit of influence from social media in regards to it actually playing a part and whether or not kids come out or not, which is ridiculous, to be honest, because I'm pretty sure anybody watching this right now, and with it being Pride Month, sees a majority of this stuff on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram, because these are all companies that all of a sudden get gay themed ads as soon as June 1st rolls around.
You're not a scientist. You're not a gender studies major.
No,
How do you know that you're a man?
I guess because I got a dick.
Now, one of my favorite parts of the interview was Don Suker. He's a man that runs a memorabilia shop, and one day he decided to put out a sign that read, "If you're born with a dick, you're not a chick." Which honestly is an impact statement that got some pushback from a congresswoman or congressman that was passing by one day. But apparently the guy started acting like a Karen and yelling and shouting about the sign, repeatedly saying that he is a woman, he's a woman. And so Matt asked some pretty simple questions, some of them being, how did you know if the councilman wasn't a woman? Doesn't the science say that if you identify as a woman, then you are one? You're not a gender studies major, how do you know if you're a man? And one of the reasons why I love this interview so much is because of the answers and how simple they are. It kind of gave me the feeling that he felt that this whole transgender situation isn't as nuanced as it's made out to be, and his answers kind of reflected that, with him saying it's common sense and the science is completely bogus. It doesn't matter if you think that you're a sheepdog, don't shove it down my throat. And then in response to the last question, that's where you get the line, how do I know? Well, because I got a dick. Although I would have said I was born with one and I still have one today, so you know, just so nobody can misconstrue my words.
Can a man become a woman?
Another really interesting part about this documentary is when Matt goes to Nairobi to kind of get the tribesfolk opinion on this kind of American concept, and you'll understand that this kind of Western idea of switching your gender or being non-binary is sort of only exclusive to us, you know, and that's kind of saying a lot. And now it's understood that in this culture, the presence of gender roles are very important, because I believe when one of the men were asked, what does a man do? He replied with, the role of a man is to work for his woman and to create stability for your family. If a man decides to be a woman in this culture, that's just something that doesn't exist and can't happen, and you'd be seen as mentally ill. And these are the same people that are made fun of for the way that they eat and live. Those conditions aside, they seem to have a pretty firm grip on what they think men and women are.
I'm not a woman, so I can't really answer that.
Women only know what women are.
Are you a cat?
No.
Can you tell me what a cat is? You want to tell us what a woman is?
I'm a biological woman that medically transitioned to appear like a male. I will never be a man.
Now, this was another really important part of this documentary. It's Scott Nugent. She is someone who regrets transitioning every day of her life, and it's pretty clear, like once you watch the interview, you can hear the passion in her voice when she says that she is or was suffering from an infection that could kill her, and this infection was specifically brought on by transitioning. She's someone who can speak to the dangers of transitioning and the side effects of hormone blockers, which there isn't any long-term studies for. And it's even mentioned in the documentary a couple of times that this current generation of trans kids who get affirmed, then go on hormones and then get surgery, they are the lab rats essentially, because they are the long-term test. Which is ridiculous to think about, because you're testing on kids without the full knowledge of the side effects that come from this.
Have a safe place to be able to talk about this.
Part of me wants to ask why you care so much.
I care about the truth. I care about children. I care about the women who are having their opportunities stolen from them.
Is it transphobic to tell the truth?
The interview's over. Let's turn off the cameras.
Excuse me,
They're fair question. I just wanted to know, what is a woman?
and you're not gonna find out.
Based on what I'm saying, would you ever want to move to America?
They say no, never.
And now finally, as you saw, I want to talk about the trans athlete discussion. It's something that I've done a video about before when the whole Leah Thomas situation broke out. And you know, honestly, when I did that video, I didn't really think about how many trans athletes there are that just destroy the competition. There's 3 actual women that Matt speaks to in this portion of the documentary, 2 of which were just random track runners who detailed the frustration of going up against trans athletes, and then the other one was one of the teammates of Leah Thomas who had to hide her identity because she was afraid that if she showed her face or anything about her name, as she mentioned in the documentary, her life would be ruined. Now, I think it's pretty clear as to why trans women shouldn't be competing against actual women. It's because these are guys with manly frames, and it doesn't matter how much hormone blockers you take, you're still going to be stronger and faster than a girl. One of the girls that ran track in high school mentioned the fact that she lost to a trans athlete by as much as 20 meters. That's 65 feet, and that's a lot. That is a ton of space to try to cover up in a short amount of time. But as Leah Thomas's teammate said, that if you speak out about this stuff, you're going to be called a transphobe, you're going to be labeled as all these things, and your life is pretty much going to be over. And when you try to go get a job in the future, they're going to see all this stuff about you being transphobic, and they're not going to hire you, all for just having an opinion. And one of the issues that came up was that Leah Thomas, being a man, was still allowed to change in the women's locker room and essentially be naked with a bunch of girls. And some of the girls felt uncomfortable with that, but they couldn't speak out because if they did, they'd be silenced. There's actually a part of the interview where a guy gets up there and he says, that there isn't a physical advantage when trans athletes compete against regular women. And his reasoning behind this is there's only a small percentage of trans athletes that compete against regular women that actually win the entire competition. Which when I heard about it, I actually thought it made sense. But then when you start to think about it, I mean, that's only first place that they're talking about. You have second place, third place, fourth place, fifth place, and all these other different spots that should have been filled with regular women, but instead are dominated by trans athletes that shouldn't be there in the first place. And now we get to speak to Mark Takano. He's a congressman for California who is a part of the LGBT community. And you know, when this part of the segment came up, I already knew that he was going to try to end the conversation early. I knew that as much by the trailers and what they showed, but I didn't expect it to be this short. Matt got through 2 questions and quite literally it ended after that. The first question Matt asked him was, what is the Equality Act? His response to that is to include public accommodations like hotels, motels, sports events, and teams, and bathrooms. Now, as soon as I heard that answer, I didn't really know what to say about it. Like, I mean, he clearly didn't know what he was going to say. And then as I started to think about it more, and you know, I was like, are any LGBTQ members facing any discrimination in motels, sporting events, businesses, and things like that? I mean, you would think no, because of all the social media stuff and how eager companies are to jump on gay pride. But hey, maybe not, I guess. The second question he was asked was, women who want privacy in their bathrooms or to be with other women and not men have shared the same sentiment. What would you say to them? And he answered, most trans people that I know, this is mainly for someone who thinks they are a female, should be respected. And so when I heard that, I thought, you know, what is he saying? Is he saying the privacy of natural females not to be respected? And you know, throughout the entire duration of this interview, you just kind of get the feeling that he was unsure about his answers and he honestly didn't know what he was going to say. And then just before he ended the interview, he redirects to the focus of the right of life and why Matt didn't ask that question first before asking about the bathroom situation. After that, he abruptly ended the interview, and I think his secretary or his assistant was the one that said, "You're not going to find out," in response to Matt's question, what is a woman?
And you're not gonna find out.
Alright, so I hope you guys did enjoy this review. It is an important documentary, I feel like, especially with today's culture, and I really liked it. It was good. It touched on a lot of key points that I think, you know, not everybody is going to get to talk about, and you know, this documentary itself could definitely serve as a conversation starter for people on opposing sides. Honestly, I give it a 9 out of 10, and you know, I hope you guys enjoy it. If you do end up wanting to see the movie yourself, you can go over to Daily Wire and watch it, although keep in mind you do have to subscribe for it, but you know, all in all, it's pretty worth it. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for me today. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button. And if you want more content similar to this, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next one. Sub up, stay safe, and peace.